I'm a police detective, and I'm dealing with the weirdest case yet. You don't need to know my real name. But for this, you can call me Amber. I've been a private investigator for 7 years. Mostly boring jobs, cheating spouses, insurance fraud, background checks. You name it, I've dug through it. What I wasn't ready for was this. A case that tore through every last assumption I had about how the world works. It started in California. I'd taken a freelance job investigating a gas station robbery for a client who swore it was more than it looked. The owner said he was held at knife point, except the attacker didn't want much money. Just emptied the register, then lingered, pacing, muttering. Then, just before the cops arrived, he vanished. I was skeptical until I reviewed the surveillance footage. There was something off about him. No visible facial features. No eyes. No lips. Just a smooth, pale mask. No fingerprints on the counter. No clear license plate. And the security tape? Static and glitch burst whenever he moved too fast. I got obsessed. I followed what little trail there was. Traffic cams caught the suspect's car pulling off near a public park. It was found the next day, abandoned. Forensics said it had been stolen. Belonged to a woman who was carjacked and knocked out cold a few hours before the robbery. The only prints in the vehicle? Hers. I should have dropped it there. But something kept gnawing at me. I told myself I was being thorough, but deep down, I knew I was chasing something that didn't want to be caught. A week later, while crashing in a cheap rental, I went for a walk to clear my head. It was nearly 11 p.m. Cold wind. Deserted street. The usual silence of small towns after dark. That's when I saw her. A woman, tall, lean, walking with grace, but too quiet. She turned into an alley, and behind her, a man followed. He was trembling, barefoot, looked like he hadn't eaten in days. She didn't threaten him, but he was terrified. Instinct kicked in. I followed. The alley was narrow, choked in shadows. I crept in, switching my flashlight on quiet as I could. What I saw stopped me cold. 5 figures were already in the alley. 2 men holding someone down. One woman, young, couldn't have been more than 20, stood off to the side, and an older woman held a camera, silently filming. At the center was her. Curly hair, white gloves, bloodied apron, and a cleaver that looked freshly used. She was calmly pulling the man's insides out like she was slicing bread. No one flinched. No one spoke. Until she finished. Then she prayed. Holding the man's ruined organs like an offering, she whispered something in a language I'd never heard. That's when the men turned and saw me. I froze. My hand went to my hip, but I didn't have my pistol. Too late. One of them hurled a chunk of broken concrete at me. Missed by inches. The second one charged. I panicked, managed to load 2 rounds into the magazine I had in my coat pocket, clicked it into place, and fired. Twice. One hit the man in the gut. He dropped, groaning. The other took a round to the knee, but crawled toward me anyway, grabbing my ankle. I kicked. Hard. His mask cracked, and he staggered. I ran. Heart pounding. Breathing sharp. I didn't think, just moved. And then I saw it. A portable toilet off the side of a construction zone. It was gross, but it had a steel-reinforced lock. I dove inside, slammed it shut, and called emergency dispatch. And then the pounding started. Dozens of fists. Male. Female. Grunting. Snarling. I couldn't see them clearly, but through the plastic walls, I could feel them. And then her voice cut through the chaos. A sing-song whisper, just inches away. Hee. Look what you've gotten yourself into. And just like that. Silence. By the time backup arrived, I looked like a lunatic. Imagine it. Me, curled up in a filthy porta-potty, holding my phone in one hand. And a pocket knife in the other like it was going to save me. 2 officers pried the door open. Flashlights in my face. Hands on their belts. I screamed. They're right there. They tried to kill a man. But there was nothing. No blood. No body. No group in white masks. Just an empty alley. And me, shaking like a leaf. They did a sweep, of course. Found a few footprints. Some scuff marks. But nothing that proved anything. Even the construction workers the next morning said the porta-potty was already dented when they got there. Convenient, huh? The only thing I had was a blurry photo. One I managed to snap before running. 5 figures. A man on the ground. The leader, curly-haired woman, mid-slice, cleaver in motion. You'd think that'd be enough to start an investigation. It wasn't. The detectives assigned to the case dismissed it as a prank. said it looked staged. One of them even joked, "You sure you didn't walk into a TikTok horror skit?" I could have punched him, but I knew how this would go. They'd never take it seriously, unless I gave them something they couldn't ignore. So I did what I do best. I started digging. Brown Square. First, I pulled every missing persons report filed in that county over the last 3 weeks. A name popped. Julian G. Moreno, age 32, reported missing by his sister. Last seen walking home from a diner around 10:45 p.m., roughly an hour before I saw the alley incident. The sketch she provided matched the man I saw on the ground, nearly gutted. But that wasn't the only thing. Julian worked as a youth pastor, and when I ran that through the system, I found something else. 2 years ago, a church in Northern California burned to the ground. The arsonist was never found. The only clue? In the charred basement, they discovered the bodies of 2 pastors. Both had been mutilated. One had his tongue removed. The other, his eyes. Above them, scratched into the brick wall with what looked like a knife. "We are chosen." Same phrase. Same ritualistic violence. And from what I was starting to piece together, possibly the same people. Brown Square. I went back to the alley during the day. It looked completely ordinary. Trash cans. Broken bottle shards. The dented plastic of that same porta-potty, now reeking in the sun. But in the drain, tucked behind a pipe, I found something the cops had missed. A white glove. Delicate. Feminine. Stained deep red. I took it back to my room and sealed it in a bag. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking the windows. I felt watched. And just past 3 a.m., I heard it. A knock. Soft. Deliberate. Not on the door. On the window. I live on the 2nd floor. When I pulled back the curtain, I saw nothing. But taped to the glass was another glove. Identical. Except this one was clean. Brown Square. I don't remember crawling back to my bed. I must have passed out eventually. The next morning, I was exhausted. But something was gnawing at me. I uploaded the glove photo to a database of ritual symbols, ran it through image-matching AI, cross-checked it against cult activity, and I found a match. A defunct website from the early 2000s. Archived. Barely functioning. A group called the Hollow Choir. There wasn't much left, just fragments of a manifesto. They believed the soul could be peeled from the flesh, if done with surgical reverence. They believed masks were divine. That identity was the first lie given to man. That only by shedding names, voices, and faces could one become chosen. Their rituals were filmed. Always filmed. They believed every act must be witnessed, even if only by themselves. A quote at the bottom of the manifesto. "There is no salvation without audience." That clicked something in my brain. The woman in the alley, the older one. She was holding a camcorder. They weren't just killing. They were recording it. Brown Square. So I traced every pawn shop in a 30-mile radius, looking for old film, abandoned cameras, VHS tapes, anything dumped or resold. And in a dusty corner of a pawn shop in Reading, I found something. A VHS tape, unlabeled, except for a red dot. I bought it, took it to a local library that still had old playback tech. And what I saw, I'll explain in the next part. I don't scare easy. Not after 10 years in private investigations. Not after dealing with cartel smugglers, abusive millionaires, and politicians with bodies in their closets. But the moment that VHS tape clicked into the player, I felt my blood chill. The screen started in static. A shrill hum buzzed through the library's old monitor. Then, a flicker. We were in a basement. Concrete walls. Low swinging bulb. No audio, just that faint mechanical whirring of the tape running. In the center, a chair. Bound to it, a man. Mouth taped. Eyes swollen shut, blood dripping down his bare chest. And behind him, 5 figures, wearing white, featureless masks. Not theatrical, not costume shop cheesy. They looked like molded bone. The leader stepped forward. I recognized her immediately. Curly hair tied back, delicate posture. The same gloves I found. White, blood-slicked, reverent. She turned to face the camera and bowed. Then the screen cut to black. Not for long. Brown Square. The image came back distorted. It jumped. Warped. The man was gone. Now, another person was in the chair. A teenage girl this time. Bruises around her arms. A bandage covering one ear. My stomach turned. In the background, I spotted the first man's body. Folded. Discarded like an old coat in the corner. Then something even worse happened. The woman. The curly-haired one. turned slowly, and stared directly into the lens. Her mask didn't move, but something about the tilt of her head made it feel like she was smiling. She held something up, a piece of cardboard. On it, scrawled in thick black marker, "Hello, Amber." I paused the tape. My hands were shaking. How the hell did she know my name? I'd gone dark. No press. No public statements. I hadn't even filed an official report since the porta potty incident. I took a picture of the frame, pulled the tape, and ran. Brown Square. Back at my place, I rewatched the clip on my laptop, digitized it through a converter. Frame by frame. There were more details I hadn't noticed. The girl in the chair had a tattoo on her wrist. A crescent moon over 2 crossed arrows. I reverse image searched the symbol. A match. Missing person, Talia Romero, age 17. Last seen leaving a coffee shop in Eureka, California. That was 3 months ago. Same tattoo. Same build. She was listed as a runaway. But this wasn't someone who ran away. This was someone who had been taken. And the worst part? In the final frame before the screen cut out, before the tape ended in a smear of glitchy static, Talia's eyes weren't just scared. They were empty. Not blank. Not unconscious. Hollow. Brown Square. That night, I started piecing things together. Julian Moreno, the pastor, missing. Talia Romero, missing. Both appeared on the same tape. Both likely dead. Both fit a specific profile. Emotionally vulnerable. Publicly visible. And overlooked by the system. The Hollow Choir wasn't just killing. They were curating. Selecting victims. Filming them. Cataloging them. And worse, they were sending messages. To me. Brown Square. Around 3 a.m., I heard a knock again. This time, it wasn't soft. It was hard. 3 rapid bangs. Then silence. I didn't move. Didn't even breathe. Then came the second knock. Not on the door. Not on the windows. But underneath. From beneath the floorboards. My apartment is on the 2nd floor. I grabbed my flashlight and crept to the corner where the sound had come from. A vent cover was loose. Inside, a folded photo. Black and white. Grainy. It showed me. Standing in the library earlier that day. Holding the red dot VHS. There was handwriting on the back. Do you want to see what happens next? Brown Square. The next morning, I packed a bag. Laptop. The tape. Cash. A burner phone. I checked out of my apartment. Left the city. Went dark. But before I did, I accessed one last file I had recovered from that old Hollow Choir website. A map. Scrawled with coordinates. All across California. One was circled in red. Up north. Deep in the woods outside Mendocino. I'm heading there now. Whatever this is. Whatever they are. They wanted me to see it. And I intend to look. The drive north was long, cold, and utterly silent. No music. No podcasts. No distractions. Just the hum of my old sedan chewing asphalt as I climbed deeper into Mendocino's forest roads, surrounded on all sides by tall, skeletal trees reaching skyward like fingers from the grave. The red circle on the map pointed to a spot just off a forgotten logging trail, unlisted on any GPS app. I parked a mile out and hiked the rest on foot, armed with only a flashlight, a stun baton, and my recorder. By the time I reached the spot, the sun had dipped below the horizon, bleeding rust across the trees. There, nestled between moss-covered boulders and crooked trunks, was what looked like the ruins of an old wooden chapel, half collapsed, roof caved in, a black cross still barely clinging to the front gable. No stained glass. No steeple. Just rotted planks and silence. And below it, a door. Bolted. Iron. Set into the earth like it didn't belong there. I knelt. Ran my hand across the rusted handle. There were markings scratched into the metal. We are chosen. I whispered the words out loud, instantly regretting it. Because the wind stopped. Everything stopped. Brown Square. When I opened the door, a foul gust hit me like a wave, decay, blood, mold. I went down 5 steps. Then 10. Then 20. Until the walls turned from dirt to stone. There were no torches. No candles. Just cheap fluorescent bulbs bolted into the low ceiling, some flickering, some out entirely. But they worked. Which meant someone was still down here. I passed a long corridor filled with ancient pews, disassembled, stacked like firewood. Then, a small hallway opened into a vast circular chamber. And that's when I saw it. The altar. It wasn't made of stone. It was made of TVs. Rows and rows of them, old, bulky, stacked like bricks, glowing with static. A few displayed frozen images. A child's birthday party. A couple getting married. A girl bound to a chair. Me. Standing in front of that altar was a man. Tall, skinny, hair tied back into a ponytail. He turned as if he'd been expecting me. "Amber," he said softly, like greeting a guest to a funeral. "We've been watching." I froze. "Don't speak," he continued. "You'll see everything you need to see." He raised a remote and clicked. The wall of TVs flickered. Then one tape started playing. Brown Square. It was from my childhood. I hadn't seen this footage in decades, me at 6 years old, dressed as a princess at my birthday party, my mom behind the camera, my brother playing with streamers. I knew this tape. It had been destroyed in a house fire. But there it was, playing. Behind me, more screens lit up, more home videos. Some were mine. Some were strangers. Hundreds of lives, edited, spliced, warped. In each one, the masked figures appeared eventually. Never fast. Never loud. They walked into frame like they'd always belonged there. Like ghosts burned into the film. And one thing connected them all. The moment they appeared, the light in the scene died. Literally. Sunlight dimmed. Lamps flickered. The video itself became darker. Every single time. I turned back to the man. "What do you want?" I finally asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he raised a second remote. Clicked. And the room itself shifted. Brown Square. Behind the altar, a wall lifted, revealing a hallway lined with doors. Each marked with a red dot. Each door was open, just a crack. From behind them, I heard muffled breathing, scratching, taps, and whispering. It didn't sound human. It sounded like a recording played backward. The man gestured toward the hall. "Each of us finds our door eventually," he said. "You were chosen because you see. But that sight comes with obligation." Then he looked back at the altar. "They're not just watching. They're remembering. And if we don't feed the memory, it eats." That's when I realized. The hollow choir wasn't just a cult. It was a library. A living, breathing archive of pain. And its members? They weren't killers. They were curators. Collectors of trauma, preserving death like art. Brown Square. I backed away. I wasn't here for enlightenment. I was here to burn it all down. I grabbed the stun baton. Charged. Swung. But before I could reach him, the lights died. All of them. The room went black. Then came the sound of plastic cracking. TVs exploding. One by one. And behind me, from the hall of doors. They came. The masked ones. One walked on all fours. One dragged a sack. One crawled on the ceiling. And the last? She stood tall. Curly hair. White gloves. She looked at me. And she said, in a voice that wasn't just hers. It was every voice I'd heard on the tapes. "Thank you for coming home. Brown Square." I ran. I don't remember how I got out. Just that I found myself in the woods. Bleeding. Without my bag. Without the tape. Without proof. Only my phone. And one new message in my inbox. A link. No sender. No subject. Just the words. Part 5 will be delivered soon. I didn't want to open the link. But I did. Because I had to. The moment I tapped it, my phone glitched. Screen flicker. Volume spike. And then. Video. Not from the internet. A live feed. It was my apartment. Camera positioned from above, like something was watching from the ceiling. I saw myself, curled on the couch. Bloodstained, still wearing the torn jacket from Mendocino. The screen displayed a timestamp in red. Live, 2:11 a.m. I dropped the phone. Backed away. It clattered across the floor but kept playing, louder now. Static. And then, a voice. Mine. But not recent. Not from that night. It was a younger me. Maybe 13? I didn't remember the footage, but I knew it was real. I was in my childhood room, talking to the camera, laughing about a school prank. My mother calling me for dinner in the background. And just behind me, in the reflection of a small vanity mirror, a white mask. Perfect. Featureless. Watching. Even back then. Brown Square. I staggered outside. Into the cold. Pacing under the buzzing orange streetlight in front of my building. I needed help. Not backup. Not weapons. Truth. I called my old mentor Captain Reyes. Retired, grizzled, and too smart for comfort. He answered on the second ring. "Amber? You sound like hell. I need to ask something," I said. "Do you remember the hollow choir case? The church fire?" A pause. Then, "Where are you?" "Home." "Why?" "Pack a bag. Go now." "What do you know?" "I'm coming to you." "Don't hang up. Don't go back inside. Just keep talking to me." But I had already stepped toward the building. Because someone was at my door. A figure in a hoodie, facing away. They turned. It was the man from the first case. The one who gave me the folder. Except he was dead. Officially. Confirmed. Fingerprinted. But there he was. Pale. Hollow-eyed. Moving like a marionette. He didn't speak. He offered something. A VHS tape. In a bloody paper sleeve. A single red dot on the label. "Don't take it," Reyes shouted through the phone. But my hands had already moved. And when my fingers touched the tape, the man collapsed, as if some thread inside him had snapped. No breath. No sound. Just stillness. Brown square. I ran again. Not to hide. To finish this. Drove west. Back to the station. Straight to the media lab and the evidence archive. I needed to watch this. One last time. I loaded the tape into a backup VCR we used for analog conversion. The screen went black. Then, static. Then, my name. Typed in white, blocky font. Amber Wyatt. Final record. I leaned in and watched as a recording of myself appeared on screen. Sitting in a windowless room. Same clothes. Same scars. But I was speaking softly, almost calmly. "You won't believe this," the recorded me said, "but I've seen what comes next. Not just for me. For you. You're watching this because you took the tape. Because the cycle needs feeding. Because something in you wants to be remembered." Then the camera zoomed out, and I saw what was behind me. The wall of masks. Dozens. Hundreds. And at the center, one that looked like my face. Not stylized. Not abstract. Photorealistic. Cast in porcelain. Eyes hollow. And carved into the cheeks were the words. Witness. Archive. Feed. Brown square. The screen flickered, and the final image burned into the display. A blinking red recording dot. In the corner, a timer counting up. 00:01. 00:02. 00:03. I turned around. A small red light glowed above the door to the archive room. Recording. My face was now in frame. I was the next tape. That's when the lights cut out. Total darkness. No power. No hum of machines. Just silence. And then, whispers. Not from outside. From inside the tape deck. Like the reel was alive, its spools breathing. Speaking. Chanting in reverse. I bolted. Left everything. Drove across 2 state lines. No phone. No badge. Now I live out of motels, switching places every few nights. But every morning, there's a tape. Left by the door. Sometimes it's mine. Sometimes it's someone else's life. Always labeled. Always watching. Red square. So here's the truth. The hollow choir is real. And it doesn't need believers. It needs viewers. It doesn't want worship. It wants memories. Your first kiss. Your wedding. Your funeral. Your scream. All of it. Stored. Played. Fed. And the people wearing the masks? They're not possessed. They're former witnesses. People like me. People like you. So if you ever find a tape on your doorstep, don't play it. Burn it. Run. Forget. Because once you press play, it doesn't stop until you're the final scene.